Recording in progress. Hey, Sally.
Good morning.
You need to step there. So you'll have a mic. Good morning. Yeah, it is good to have Judge. We need someone with some experience in the. Members. Well, it is 10:30, so let's call our meeting to order. Thank you all for being here today. We have some important business to take up, which is carryover from what we've done before. I'm glad Susan Taylor Rash is here. That's going to be very helpful to us. Let's have a moment of silence to start with. Amen. Thank you. Is there a motion to circulate? Say aye.
And pardon the interruption, if I could just give the members a quick reminder to either pull the microphone directly to you so that we're speaking like this. Like this.
Can
Thank
y'all
you all.
hear online on Zoom like this?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we have Sally and Mason on Zoom. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes as previously said? So moved. Second.
I have only one comment to the minutes of the last meeting.
I'm shocked.
I know. Well, towards the end, there was the first comment by a member of the public related to trees and the diameter of the plantings. And it said, and I don't have it in front of me because I've just got the screen, but that I referred to, there was no change in the diameter of the plantings. And what it really should have said, in the diameter of trees that were required to be planted.
Okay. Is there a motion to amend the minutes with that addition?
I'll move that.
Is there a second? And now is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended? So moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. Between our last meeting and now, Scott had pulled together the rules of procedure for the commission, which I don't think any of us knew we even had. So we were grateful for that. And he suggested that we take a look at them and see if we, number one, need to have them. Number two, if so, should there be any amendments to conform with the change in the zoning ordinance, which we've done. So I've asked a subcommittee consisting of Mason Blake, Wade Burns, John Hinkle, and Dan Dean, who's agreed to chair it, to serve in this capacity and take a couple of months just to take a look at it and then report back to us in December or January, because we've got other business that we'll be taking up during those times too. And I'm sure as y'all go forward that Susan would be glad to help you with that, and so would Scott. So we appreciate it and appreciate y'all's service. So thank you.
One thought, 4 members represents a quorum, is that right?
I believe that's right.
And so does that have to be advertised and so forth? Would we need to have these committee meetings published and maybe over here?
I think that'd probably be true of any committee.
We can do it, well, you can do 3.
Well, not if you're an official committee. Is that right, Susan? So even if we had a 2-person committee, if they were having a formal committee meeting, they would have to meet. So that will take care of Alex.
Well, of course, one tricky thing is, some of us talk to other members in between meetings. We're talking about stuff.
That's okay. But you're not having a meeting. It's when you're having a meeting. Even with 2, or does that take 3? So I can't call up Dan Dean and say, hey, Dan, I want y'all to consider this part of it as you go through. That wouldn't require a notice.
Could Alex please use the microphone?
Are you saying that would require notice? I can't believe that.
So I believe, sorry, Mason, but I believe that the any town business that's discussed between members of the board would need to be noticed as a public meeting.
So we can prepare for this and know about it. Would you be good enough to cite that for us or get Susan to help me? Because I think
Yes,
that's
I would.
important, because
Susan, do
we
you
do
agree?
call each other.
Do you agree with that interpretation?
So I can't have Wade over for dinner and say, hey, tomorrow morning, we're going to take up exit meeting. I have to notice. So if I ask Wade and Susie Burns over for dinner one night, said, Wade, don't forget our meeting tomorrow at planning and zoning, because it's going to be very important. We're going to take up septic tanks.
I think if you were to deliberate about the septic tanks, that would be the trigger for the meeting requirement. If you were reminding him that we had a meeting tomorrow, that would not in itself need a meeting.
Well, thank you. It would be helpful if y'all would cite that to us and get that out by email to us. So we could, I think Dan's surprised too, and he's representing public authorities in the corner. Okay, any other business on the committee, and we will conform with the notice requirements. And thank y'all for serving. So our next topic is the discussion of the well and septic tank language in the non-zoning ordinance parts of the general ordinances of the town. And I want to thank Scott for pulling this all together. I think it's pretty well organized. As I looked at it, I don't think we need to change all of them, because some of them are just plain just references, but there are that we do. So Scott, I'm going to ask you, do you want to lead us through this? And I'm just going to start with that table of contents.
Sure, sure.
I do want to call out one thing that was informative to me is on page 12, that because what we did in the zoning ordinance was say effectively that Buncombe County rules we don't apply. And that's where we're headed on this. And Buncombe County, the Metropolitan Service District has a policy that if a property is within 300 feet of public sewer, that they need to connect to that. And so that would mean that we can't permit septic tanks anywhere. If you're within 300 feet, you got to connect to the sewer.
That's my initial reading of that policy from
So
MSD.
that just sort of governs as we go through it. That was-
Right.
So, okay, the floor is yours, Scott, and thank you again for putting this together.
You're welcome. So the document before you is largely a summary of all relevant town ordinances, both within the zoning ordinance and the town's general ordinances that reference any mention of well and septic service versus town water and MSD sewer service. I made a note on the front page here. I suppose we could go to page 2, just kind of walking through some of the highlights of some of the existing language. So just taking a quick look at the zoning ordinance, the section 603 minimum lot area, the currently adopted zoning ordinance, which was went into effect June 18th of this year, 2021, notes in areas not served by a public or community sewer system, the minimum lot area shall be determined by the Buncombe County Health Department. That's technically true. We could possibly modify that language to reflect what the county standard for septic permitting is, which to date, my current understanding is that the county has no minimum or maximum lot size on the face of it. It's really driven on a performance basis, i.e. does the site perk or does it not perk? I will note, if you look at the second document that I've got here in front of you, and I apologize, I don't have that for Zoom. I can share that after the meeting.
We'll keep that up for that.
Yes, this is, so this is citing the Buncombe County zoning ordinance, particularly for the zoning district, low density residential district R-LD. And on the next page, these are dimensional requirements for specifically for septic service. There's no specific mention of well service, but in essence, whether you're in R-LD or R1 or R2, which are the county's zoning designations for essentially septic service. So they're saying no public sewer, which by default means septic. The minimum lot size in RLD is 43,560 square feet, i.e. 1 acre. The standard in R1 and R2 is a minimum lot size of 30,000 square feet. I highlighted the footnote on the bottom of this table, noting that the minimum land area for lots not served by public water and or sewer shall be subject to the approval by the county health department to ensure the proper operation of septic tanks and wells, i.e. does it perk or does it not perk? In no case shall minimum lot areas be less than those specified in this table. So my quick understanding between briefly looking at the county's health department, Division of Environmental Health Standards, basically stating we're not looking at lot size versus looking at least at this county set of dimensional requirements for lots that have septic service, is that basically, and I should say these are for new lots, not lots of record. So it's a little convoluted, but in essence, for lots of record, whether they're an acre, 2 acres, or 10,000 square feet, i.e. about a quarter acre, my understanding would be that the county would be looking at that from a performance standard, not a minimum lot standard. For any new lots, my understanding is that the county would be looking at these dimensions and lot sizes, both for zoning compliance and for septic conformity. I suppose the issue in Montreat, though, is that there are so many existing lots of record of varying sizes, but generally, I want to characterize them in a fairly small urban footprint, at least in terms of being less than or about an acre in size. So that lot size is typically most, I'll say, urban or municipal settings served by public water and sewer. The issue in the ETJ, the extraterritorial jurisdiction area, is that you have lots that were platted at least as of 1935. That was the first official plat of the town. There was a 1906 plat, but then it was basically codified and formalized in 1935. The lots up in the ETJ are of varying sizes. I've got a exhibit in the document, I believe this would be on page 15. It's a map showing at least the lots in the immediate ETJ area north of town. That red line on the map are the town limits. And let's see if I had a note here. Look back. I had a note. Oh, I'm sorry. Page 13. I've got just a quick bulleted note on the lot conditions, at least in that immediate area. So it's noting 42 parcels in the ETJ, 6 are built upon, 36 are unbuilt upon. Smallest parcel is just under a quarter acre, 0.22 acres. Largest parcel is 1.16 acres. And the average parcel size is just shy of a half acre, 0.43 acres. So these are some considerations just from a spatial and physical standpoint to consider in either allowing or not allowing or modifying the town's ordinances to allow well and septic. Backing up in a more general sense, let's just go back to the first page here where I've got other key pages highlighted.
That's good. Can you start with the first one in order? So 503.
Sure.
Didn't seem to me we needed to change it.
No, I think the language there does make sense, at least in the sense of minimum lot sizes are increased due to the limited availability of town services. That's a fair assumption for either well and or septic service. And then again, just speaking to item 603, I think that language is fine in that by default, yes, the minimum lot size is being determined by the county. If they're saying you've got to meet this performance standard, this spatially dictates the amount of space that you need for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
In that 603, it says the lot area shall be determined. And I'm not sure if they actually do determine lot size, as Scott has just said, they get into where it works or not. Maybe change that word shall to may, because they may or may not determine lot size. They're just trying to determine where the lot works or not.
Yeah, I mean,
They're not going to determine it to be 1 acre or a half acre or whatever. So very
I mean,
minor detail, but
yeah, I
just-
mean, I guess the more accurate language would be, the Buncombe County Health Department I guess while we're writing this on the fly, we're having to sketch it out. In essence, the county health department is determining if a site can support well and septic via performance standards.
Correct.
So it's, and that's for an existing lot of record. So it's regardless of lot size.
This is just talking about minimum lot area, and it's saying the lot area shall be determined by the county health department.
But we've already set that.
That's correct. So it certainly shouldn't say shall. It may say may, but it may not want to say it.
Right. I think,
They don't wanna address lot. I don't even think they get into lot area at all. So it's-
well, just
Maybe we
as,
should delete
as I was
some.
discussing either with lots of record or new lots, they quote unquote do get into lot size. But I think for the purposes of this language here, I think it'd be more accurate to state or to really not even mention lot size, because I don't want to say it's a non-issue, but it's a separate and side issue from the county looking at a site for a performance standard. So
We could just, if we change this to say, the whether or not or the performance standards for a particular lot shall be determined by the Humphrey County. Health Department.
That's accurate.
Is that okay with y'all?
Of course, the next line then says this minimum lot area, which you have now taken out.
So let's take that. Let's take out that sentence. What did I say? Performance
Standards.
standards.
You could scratch out a minimum lot in that second sentence, this minimum lot area. You could say, you could scratch out that first part and say site conditions shall be those necessary for safe on-site waste disposal system. That's the essence of what the county would be looking for on a given site.
Slow down and repeat that. So we
Sure.
can write it.
So I would suggest scratching this minimum lot area and replacing it with site conditions shall be those necessary for safe on-site waste disposals, for a safe on-site.
Those necessary for safe on-site water disposal,
System.
safe on-site waste disposal
Yes.
systems. And then strike, but in no case. Because we're taking all the lot size stuff out.
The whole section deals with minimum lot area.
Right, that's true. Um,
The town wants 603 in there when it relates to some of the, but they're off of Harmony. It's new lots. So what I'd underline that whole paragraph, and all I was going to add was except in the ETJ. Nobody's allowed to have septic in town.
Scott, let's start with the height. Minimum lot area. What are we gonna say?
First sentence, I think, remains minimum lot area shall be as specified in Article 5 for each zoning district.
Okay.
Actually, for the purpose, well, so Wade does have a point, and it's something that I would need to look back at in that where the R3 district exists both in town and in the ETJ. I think it's almost two separate sections there in that within the ETJ, well, it's two issues. Minimum lot area, that's just a basic spatial standard of how big of a lot the zoning ordinance is dictating. But again, for the purposes of county septic permitting, I mean, this could almost be a separate, let's say, section 603, site performance standards, something to the effect of that, if this is specifically reference to the county health department.
But if the county doesn't get involved in site lot sizes at all, maybe we don't need anything other than the very first sentence in here dealing with minimum lot area.
The county does, but they exempt the requirement for repair fee if it's for lots like 419.
So we don't need it here because the lots are fine.
It may honestly be helpful to have two separate sections, in essence, lots of record, new lots. That might be a cleaner way to differentiate.
So make it an A and B so we don't have to change that.
That's an option,
So
certainly.
what I'm trying to do is hope that by the end of this meeting, we'll be in a position to send it to the council. So we can. So that's why I keep pushing, for which I apologize. Let's get the specific language.
Sure.
So we can. So what I'm hearing now, it will still say 603 minimum lot area, and then there will be an A. That A will be the minimum lot area shall be specified in Article 5. It's in here. Then B.
I think, I mean, if you want to differentiate new lots, A,
Oh, okay.
and existing lots of record, B, if you want to differentiate those two,
I'm just trying to get the language. Are we leaving in that first sentence? That's what I was.
Have my whole zoning ordinance. I can't remember where 603 fits into the whole scheme.
Since the title is minimum lot areas, it's hard to take minimum lot
that's
area out
true.
of the
This
body.
this is a general
And that's why I
standard.
said, all you gotta do is just say, except in ETJ.
Alternately, if you want to take, because this is specific to R3, you know, take any reference to R3 into R3. So, you know, part of the issue also, and I suppose this is for the, you know, the more general discussion, is there are lots within the town limits that do not currently have town water or MSD sewer service. And that's also I'll say that's a parallel or a second question that's come up is, you know, the current town policy is to require lots within the town limits to connect to town water and MSD sewer, plain and simple. The question has come up recently for a specific lot over off of Lookout Road, if it can be served, I guess, legally by well and septic versus being required to connect to town water and MSD sewer. The secondary question that we're working through is involving parcels in the ETJ. The town's current language, and we have highlighted it in a couple of different pages, just noted on that first page, is that the town's current language, in essence, says all lots, regardless of their location in town limits or in the ETJ, must connect to town water and sewer. What we're primarily discussing is clarifying and changing that language, especially as it relates to state law that has been written since this ordinance was last updated, I believe in 2009 and 10, that states that essentially towns cannot require connectivity to municipal water and or sewer in the ETJ. The town can still legally require connection to town water and MSD sewer within the town limits. So it's two points of differentiation. We're talking about parcels that are within the ETJ, which, as long as the ETJ exists, the town still has zoning jurisdiction, i.e. for lot size, setbacks, height, what have you. But in terms of requiring connectivity to town water and MSD sewer, that's what needs to be clarified and updated in our ordinances.
I'm confused now. I thought this 87-87-2 said in those particular two situations, at least, the town does not require connection.
In the my understanding is that it's in the ETJ. I would need to honestly, and
Well, you
Susan,
provide on page 13, the
Sure.
first statement. It's under state law, the town cannot require connection.
And I've got a copy 87-97-2 here. And if I read it, certainly it doesn't forbid all requirements to connect. But in these two situations, A and B, in 87-97.2, it says upon compliance with this article, the property owner receiving a permit shall not be required to connect to the public water system so long as the well remains compliant and in use. I think there's some situations where we definitely cannot require connection.
well, I think it's also worth having the I mean, I think it's also a policy discussion, which obviously we are having and, forwarding on to the town's Board of Commissioners, and that is a town policy discussion and eventual decision to either, allow well and septic within town limits or require connectivity to town water and MSD sewer.
And the requirement, it seems to me that even if we do require it in situations where we can, does it not make a difference whether the services are readily, easily available, or they're way down the street, or are there areas in town where it is not readily available, water and sewer?
I mean, in essence, all of Upper Lookout Road and all of those unbuilt lots up there are,
Yep.
over 500, either between 500 and 1,000 feet from any of the nearest, at least the MSD sewer spur. So, and it becomes a sort of the policy question of going on the assumption for well and septic service on a given lot and the spatial needs of that. You may inadvertently be creating a, I don't want to say a bidding war or a lottery of sorts between property owners if the expectation is all of their properties as they exist in their spatial size, i.e. the square footage or acreage, if they all have the expectation of being able to develop those at some point, if you're essentially saying, hey, look, we're not going to have the requirement for urban, I'll call it urban water and sewer versus rural well and septic. The spatial proposition on that is that it's generally going to require larger lot sizes. So that's part of the issue, I think, that is we're working through, is that Montreat historically was platted with what I'll call urban sized lots, smaller lots. So whether that was done on the assumption of urban water and sewer or rural well and septic, that's that was then, this is now. Going forward, it really is the question of, in essence, up in the ETJ or even for these areas within town limits where there are platted lots with no current water and sewer service or well and septic, call it what you want, wastewater and water service. I guess, the hard nut to crack, or kind of the question that's there is, is that from a policy standpoint, something that both the Board of Commissioners from a service delivery standpoint and the individual property owners, is that something that they're all in agreement with?
Well, speaking for myself personally, and I think that's sort of where this commission was heading, was to do away with those prohibitions of wells and septic tanks, especially in those areas where there's no city services provided. I mean, it's hard to require someone to connect the city water and city sewer when it's not even available at that lot. I think definitely in those situations, it's hard to require them or to prohibit them from having a well and septic. So I think from my perspective, just to kind of simplify it and advance the ball a little bit, what I would like to see us do is eliminate the prohibitions of well and septic so that at least those people, in the areas you just described, have the option of having water and sewer service to their lot, albeit by a well and a septic tank. Whether they're actually able to do it based on lot size and all that, that's another matter, but I don't think we can be able to address that here today.
Sure.
So I would say for the present purposes, we just need to eliminate any prohibitions, if that's the will of the commission, any prohibitions of well and septics in the city limits and the ETJ for that matter.
What should make everybody comfortable is if you do that, the county still will require you to connect if it's within 300 feet.
Correct.
And so
And they'll
They've
also
got it-
still
They've
require,
got it so it works.
and the health department will still supervise the septic tanks and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I have no problem with that personally. Everybody else can speak for themselves. So I would like to see us just proceed to allow well and septic and anywhere that's forbidden in the statute to. You raise lots of good issues and questions that we need to discuss and going forward and looking at lot size and so on and so forth. But I think we, for present purpose, we just need to try to limit it to eliminating those prohibitions on wells and septics where they exist.
And I have just a quick question, perhaps, just directed to the town administrator and the town attorney. Do you all have any current comments on any of this right now? Just giving you any chance to, speak on any concerns that you all may have. Again, I'm not necessarily trying to prescribe policy one way or the other, but just want to clarify that.
I don't really have any comments yet. I mean, this proposed change will go to the Board of Commissioners and they'll have to decide how to address the larger issue. What we're looking at specifically is what do we do about the statute that says we can't prohibit wells in certain situations, as you were just reviewing. And that's what, today we need to make sure we're addressing that problem. Then the bigger problem of what do you do about water and sewer in undeveloped areas, that's a bigger issue for the Board of Commissioners.
Okay. I just wanted to just double check if you all had any quick passing comments.
The chair continues to be somewhat at a loss. So, and again, I'm kind of moving slow too, and I don't want to cut off the discussion. But in terms of what we do with 603, are we going to leave that unchanged now, or is it just go straight to this discussion on septic prohibition? Or do we need to change?
My recommendation would be that we delete everything except the very first sentence.
You have to add to it except ETJ.
ETJ has minimal lot area specified in Article 5, doesn't it?
None of the lots needed.
We have the other provisions that we put in there, existing lots or grandfathered in.
Yeah, I think
Address that by saying no existing lot shall be
the,
considered non-conforming.
I mean, the language here for the purposes of this section could fairly simply be minimum lot area for newly created lots. I think that's the key point of differentiation,
Okay.
because otherwise lots of record are exactly that, whether they're 10 acres or 10 square feet.
So rather than newly created, so for lots created after the adoption of this ordinance.
But yeah, I mean, that's, that section there is, it's referring to, it's the statement of what minimum lot area means for the various zoning ordinances. So you could have the section be 603 minimum lot area. The minimum lot area for newly created lots shall be specified in Article B.
Newly created would have to be defined somehow or other. When
Right.
newly created as a when.
That's why I said for lots newly created after the adoption of this.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's,
You need to type someday.
Okay. All right, Scott, have you got that in so you can get that?
I'm going to be referring to your notes, but I could.
So that is going to read minimum lot area for lots following the adoption of this,
Lot newly created.
lots newly created subsequent to the adoption of this ordinance shall be as specified in Article 5.13.
Do we need to have the rest of the sentences? I'm open. I just made that a suggestion. An area is not served by public communities or minimum lot area I still say may be determined by the board. County Health Department. We're just dealing with minimum lot area. I don't know that that's.
Can I suggest, this is Mason, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable making this change to 603 without further consideration. In terms of a change today, I don't think it hurts to leave it like it is. And us come back when we do some other housekeeping changes to the ordinance as a whole, because we're looking at 603 out of context here. If you, I just am uncomfortable. I think if we do as Dan suggests and simply eliminate the prohibition so that we comply with the statutory requirements, and we come and, fix some of this other stuff that may need to be fixed later without doing damage to the ordinance by just simply moving too quickly. I don't think there's anything in 603 here that is going to hurt us if to have it in there a little bit longer. What it references by intent anyway, if it doesn't say it particularly clearly, is that in addition to the minimum lot sizes, where lots are not served by a community sewer system, the Buncombe County Health Department and the minimum lot sizes necessary for safe on-site waste disposal come into play. That's my comments. I'm just concerned that we start making changes to individual sections out of context quickly is an invitation to make an inadvertent error.
Okay,
That seems reasonable, Mason.
And Mason, are you okay with just adding, except an ETJ?
I don't see why we need to do that as long as we take out the prohibition.
okay, I'm hearing everybody agree to. So 603 will remain the same. So now going to find.
Thank you, Mason.
Thank you, Mason. Yes. And Susan and Alex. All right. 510.3.
This is, I simply had this here just as reference to any language regarding water and sewer. Essentially, this is the language for the, I'll say, newly adopted conditional zoning district as of June 18th, and the new, what we'll keep calling the current or new zoning ordinance. Really just the language here talking about making, just a condition of conditional zoning is that demonstration of adequate water or other public utilities are necessary to be demonstrated, but that's all, that's really just for
I've got
reference.
one change I want to suggest.
Sure.
Where you've highlighted water and sewer improvements. Would it be better to say, considering what we're doing, water and waste disposal improvements?
That's definitely a more generalized and agnostic term for,
Is that okay with everybody to change sewer to waste disposal?
Sure.
Second paragraph.
Same thing in the second paragraph.
you could say water and wastewater. That would cover the intent
Water
of,
and wastewater is okay?
yes, that's the general, those are the general terms for
Okay,
potable and non-potable water.
all right, I'm looking around. Any objection to that? Okay.
No.
Oh, Susan. Oh, I thought it was six. Okay. There you go, sound. Okay, now on to page 3. Current county mental general experience.
Changes down in section 5 at the bottom.
What I just, again, along that same thought in the chapter D, is this a comment or is that the chapter?
This is the reference in chapter D.
Chapter D, okay. So would we want to say there?
Water and
water
wastewater
and waste-
infrastructure.
Water
I think if you're keeping a consistent use of language across the ordinance, that would be consistent.
Okay, y'all agree with that? Okay. And then in the second sentence, I give the wastewater collection systems must meet the metropolitan sewage district.
Well, then you're going back to, that's sewer, period.
This is dealing definitely with sewage, main sewage lines.
Oh, okay, okay. Should we add after collection lines and septic tank requirements? Let's move the metropolitan sewage district.
The Metropolitan Sewage District isn't the district that regulates the septic systems. That's the health department.
You could break, if you wanted to be clear, you could just break this into two. The main sewage collector lines must meet the Metropolitan Sewage District of Buncombe County, period. Septic field or septic systems must meet the requirements of the Buncombe County Health
That's
Service.
what we're trying to get to.
Sure.
Are y'all happy with that language?
Yes.
Yes.
Just
I think-
change it to 2 sentences, one deal with sewage. And one deal with
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, y'all, those on Zoom, y'all okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so now down to chapter E and turn it back to you, Scott.
So again, chapter E is from the town's general ordinances, and it's really just, again, these are walking through the current language relating to Article 1, water and sewer, which was last revised March 12th, 2009. So let's see, water system of the town should be under the control of the board or its authorized agent. That makes sense. The town sewer system operates under the jurisdiction of MSD of Buncombe County. That is true. Section 3, permit for connection required. No person or entity shall connect with the water system of the town until they have made written application for permission for such connection. That makes sense.
And that next sentence is highlighted again, would you want to change sewer system to waste disposal system?
This application shall be for any part of the wastewater system of a building. That's okay. Or any other connection shall be later constructed. I think that, again, if we're using a general term of wastewater system versus differentiating sewer versus septic,
Wastewater with sewer and septic.
that's correct.
Okay.
And then in the last lines in the term, proposed connection to the wastewater system. Location, all the fixtures, so
Change the word sewerage to wastewater. you suggest?
wastewater. Is that okay, Scott?
That's fine.
All right, now we're down to section 5. This is where we get to see what all others are. Take out the next,
So I would, before we get to the second sentence, I would suggest adding at the end of the first sentence, which is all under improved property and family next for purposes. I think this is where that 87.97.2 comes into play. It permits in two particular situations, putting in a well, even where water is available. That's what was talking about earlier, in some situations where we cannot require them to hook up to the water system. So I would suggest adding at the end of that sentence, put a comma after intake purposes, and just add, except where a private drinking water well is permitted in those situations described in 87-97.2. In those particular situations, we cannot require.
So I'm just doing a quick read of this. Shall connect to the town. Or you could use the language or demonstrate compliance with well permitting standards. So essentially, if you're trying to build the option or at least layout, look, you've got to connect to town water or demonstrate compliance with well permitting.
What if we just made this apply to water, and take out the sanitary sewer sentence? And just say, water connection requirements. Then that would pick up all those and feel like we could do it, shop and system for what it is, except for what would be
Work the private, well, permitted for that statute.
except where private wells are permitted. Section.
I might suggest, I understand the interest in trying to point toward the specific state law, and I'll just briefly turn my head to the town attorney to ask, is it always advisable to have a specific state statute cited, or in the event that it changes or is modified, can you have just general language that says per current applicable state statute for well permitting?
So if you reference a specific statute and the statute changes, you do need to come in and modify the ordinance. The nice thing in this case about referencing the specific statute is that it directs a property owner or builder or anybody who's reading the ordinance and trying to determine if they can get a permit for a private well. It tells them exactly where to look. This particular statute is maybe not quite so easy to find as some of them that we look for. So you can simply reference applicable state statute, and that then you don't have to worry about coming back later to amend it. But if you're looking at how do we help property owners and others find what it is that we're actually the information we're trying to convey to them, referencing this statute might be helpful. We
Just from a
could-
specificity standpoint,
Right, just because this is not especially easy to find for people, I think.
right?
And so, but we could reference the statute and then say, as it may be amended.
Yeah.
Sure. I like that. What would that be? Okay, so that's going to read, take out, I think what we're doing is just say water. Property in the county that shall connect. Left is otherwise in section 87. What statute says. It's made to county. Okay, that.
And you're changing the title there to wastewater and wastewater required.
Wastewater would be good, although I was going to propose taking out the second sentence. That's where we would move. The requirement to-
I think
Nice.
it's,
Make a suggestion
Sure.
on the sewer. So what about if we said all owners of improved property within town limits shall connect to the sanitary sewer system of the Metropolitan Surge District
or
as required or if required by the MSD? I mean, it is their requirement.
right,
It's not a town requirement. And that way, again, from the standpoint of somebody reading the ordinance to determine whether they have to connect to MSD sewer, we're saying to them, call MSD.
right.
They'll tell you whether you have to connect.
Could we also add some language that says if they do not require hooking up to them, or if there's no requirement, we want to add in somewhere in there that says that if not available or not required to hook up to the MSD, I'm getting worried, I haven't thought it through the exact language. But specifically state then in that situation, a septic tank, according to the regulations of the Buncombe County Health Department, would be allowed.
We could just change the sentence to say that the property owner has to comply with MSD if that's applicable with their requirements, or the county health department if they don't have to connect to MSD. That's not language,
Yeah.
proposed language, that's a
I understand.
concept.
Yeah,
But-
I guess that's my question. Do we want to go to the next step and make it clear that a septic tank will be allowed in certain situations?
I think it is helpful to just have abundantly clear language that states someone's options in essence, or at least the process that they would need to walk through. So water and wastewater required as the title, all owners of improved property within the town limits shall connect to the public water system of the town for water intake purposes or demonstrate compliance with Buncombe County well permitting standards.
I thought we were gonna approve the statute.
I thought we were just dealing with, I thought we had section
I
one,
thought we finished the first.
first sentence. Let's go to the second sentence.
All right. All owners of improved property within the town limits shall be required to connect to the sanitary sewer system of the MSD for MSD requirements or
What if we just said, all owners of improved property in town limits shall be required to provide.
wastewater?
Wastewater systems is maybe required, is maybe permitted by the Metropolitan Sewer District. I've seen a lot of agreements done.
That's right.
All right. Okay, I think that's, you're okay with that, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think what we're trying to do is just, again, be abundantly clear on what someone's options for process are.
So that's going to read all owners of improved property within town limits shall be required to provide wastewater systems or shall provide wastewater systems as required by the Metropolitan Sewage District and or the Buncombe County. Y'all okay with that? Got that, Scott?
Why, so can you read that back to me right quick?
All owners of improved property within town limits shall provide wastewater systems as permitted by the Metropolitan Sewage District and or
Say it's required or
I guess we could say required. Required by MSD. And or the-
All owners of improved property within the town limits shall
shall
provide wastewater systems required by the MSD or the
As
Buncombe County
required.
As required,
as required.
MSD and or Buncombe Health.
as the case may be.
All owners of improved property within the town limits shall provide wastewater systems as required by the MSD or by the Buncombe County Health Department.
As the case may be.
I'm sorry, what was the last part? As the case may be.
got that.
Exception comes in play.
So you want some language. I just, go back to the question. Did we want to include, this says within the town limits.
I think that is, that's clarifying that, yes.
Okay, so after town limits, just put ordinance. Sorry for that. So we've already sort of covered that in the fire thing. Can we just omit section 6?
That does, I mean, if you're mentioning water and wastewater systems in section 5, I think, yes, that is essentially speaking to private wells and septic systems, as long as they're permitted under the, so you could potentially just eliminate section 6.
That's what I
So
said.
2 sections.
Scott, can you read just how we've revised section 5, please?
Maybe an impossibility.
I'm
I know
going
that.
Let's say, actually, I might ask Angie to, she's got a much quicker hand typing this. Would you be able to?
So the title is Water and Wastewater. All owners of improved property within the town limits or ETJ shall provide wastewater systems as required by MSD and or Buncombe County Health Department, as the case may be.
You know, I thought it was still water in, so because we got that first sentence.
Let me just express my concern. And again, you know, we've got sort of two circumstances. One is where sewer and water lines are in the right of way, adjoining up an improved lot and readily available for that lot to connect to. There are other situations such as up out on Lookout and in the ETJ, when you've got improved lots for which any connection to sewer and water would require prohibitively expensive improvements. I personally think that where water and sewer lines are readily available for connection to an improved lot with a minimum of extension, that connection to the water and sewer system, rather than having the option to drill a well or put in a septic system, it should not be available to those. Improved lots within the town limits for which sewer and water are easily available, I think we need to require that connection. And I think it would, you know, possibly not be the best public policy to allow them alternatives. And I'm afraid that the language we're doing would accomplish just that.
Mason, over on page 12, Scott has noted that the MSD policy is that if a property is within 300 feet of public sewer, the property must connect to the public sewer. It's greater than that. They can contact Lincoln County for septic.
It could be helpful to cite and or cross-reference that standard right here in that time and place. I think that's what Mason is getting at. And for town water, I'm not aware of a specific spatial or dimensional standard for when that is required to connect or not. And I'm just looking to Alex to see if there's anything that states that.
Mason, I agree with your basic statement. One comment I would make, and is that sort of off the wall statute that Susan has brought to our attention, that 87-97-2 strangely, if you read it, even if water is right at your front door, city water, you have the option in that statute to put in a well, and we cannot require in those certain situations, a person to hook up to the city water. They may be
That's in
required to pay the minimum fee every month, but we cannot require them to hook up. That statute specifically states. So we have to include that as an exception to that general statement you were talking about.
okay. And that's even for lots in the city limits.
Correct.
Okay,
It's a very strange statute, in my opinion. I was not aware of it. As I read it, but it specifically says even if water is available, we cannot require them to hook up to it.
wow,
Or
well,
they can have a well.
That's to
thanks for,
accommodate, that's to accommodate the anti-vaxxers, anti-chlorine people.
It may
So
be.
Mason, I think
It may
you're
be.
okay. I don't think we need to, I think we can make the changes we've made because the MSD policy does have that requirement concerning public sewer.
And I think go back to Mason's basic point, I think we could still put in there that we could require people to hook up with water if it's readily available, however we define that term, with that one exception. So except as otherwise permitted in GS whatever. Because it is a couple of specific examples. It's when we go into it, it says an undeveloped, unimproved property, so they can request it before they build a house for a permit to put in a well, even if the water is right at the front door. And of course, in situations where the water has not yet been provided to that area, they can put in a well. So I think we could still require, if that's what we want to do, we can require people to hook up the water and sewer line if it's readily available, except as required in that statute, or except where it's not otherwise available.
But we've already said that in the first sentences. We've changed it. All owners of improved property within the county limits. The ETJ shall connect with shall provide water, shall connect with the public water system for water intake purposes, except as otherwise permitted by section 87.
That's the first sentence.
That's the first sentence.
Correct.
I think that covers you, Mason.
okay,
Then the second sentence is what Angie was just reading, which I think we did with Mr. Goodman on one side. Okay?
okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, over to section 6. I think we were moving toward an agreement that could be related.
That's, yes, because in essence, by refining
covered it
section 5, we've, yes, that's, as a,
Oh,
that's,
right.
yes,
Yeah, the
we'll,
first-
we'll
I'll take
eliminate
care
the first section 6.
Okay,
It's,
now
it's,
we're down to
Phil?
Yes.
One question, what constitutes improved property? Is that stated somewhere else in the?
Yeah. It's whatever the old council